Today, we are diving into some pretty thought-provoking concepts. We are exploring the nature of existence, the fear of death, and how these ideas kind of connect to our daily lives.
Oh, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah. And our source material for this deep dive is an article from the Spiritual Seek titled Physical Transiency and the Fear of Death.
Okay.
This article examines two contrasting philosophical perspectives: the Buddhist emphasis on the impermanence of all things, and the Hindu philosopher Shankara's concept of an underlying, unchanging self known as the Atman.
Right.
As we delve into these ideas, think about how understanding these concepts might offer a fresh perspective on your own life, desires, and fears.
Okay, well, the article starts by presenting an analogy of a child in the womb to illustrate the human experience of fear and loneliness when confronting loss or the unknown. Imagine the child's perspective, a sudden transition from the familiar world of the room into a new, seemingly empty world.
Right.
This transition evokes a primal fear, a sense of isolation, much like what we might experience when faced with significant loss or the vast unknown in our own lives.
This type of existential fear, rooted in the awareness of our limited existence, stays with us throughout our lives.
Exactly. And this leads into the article's central argument.
Okay.
That societal structures, relationships, and even our possessions create a false sense of security and permanence. We're led to believe in a solidity that doesn't truly exist.
Right.
The article uses the lives of kings and emperors as a stark example.
Okay.
Despite wielding immense power and accumulating vast wealth, they too ultimately face death just like everyone else.
Yeah.
This highlights the fleeting nature of worldly power and possessions.
This concept of impermanence aligns with the Buddhist principle of Anicca.
Precisely. Buddhist teaching suggests that recognizing the impermanence of all things rather than clinging to an illusion of permanence can be a path to liberation from suffering. This brings us to a paradox that Buddha explored. If everything is impermanent, does that mean nothing truly exists?
The article then delves into this intriguing question.
Buddha's perspective suggests that there are no truly permanent, independent things, only a constant flow of events.
Interesting.
The article uses the image of a flowing river to illustrate this concept.
Okay.
While we might perceive the river as a solid, singular entity, it's actually in constant flux, always changing.
I see.
Similarly, our own desires, experiences, even our sense of self are constantly in motion and evolving.
This presents a radical shift in perspective from our conventional understanding of a world made up of solid, independent objects. But the article doesn't stop there. It introduces a counterpoint from the Hindu philosopher Shankara.
Yes, Shankara offers a contrasting viewpoint. He argues that the very act of knowing nothing exists implies the existence of a knower, a consciousness that transcends this constant flow of events.
Right.
He refers to this unchanging eternal self as the Atman.
So we're presented with two contrasting views: Buddha's emphasis on the impermanence of all things, and Shankara's concept of an eternal self. How can we reconcile these seemingly opposing ideas?
The article suggests that both perspectives offer valuable insights into the human experience. Perhaps it's not about choosing one over the other, but rather recognizing the interplay of both within our understanding of ourselves and the world.
That's interesting. So this awareness of our existence, whether temporary or eternal, really shapes our lives.
Yeah.
The article goes on to explore how this awareness, particularly our awareness of our limitations and mortality, really influences our desires and actions.
Right. The article suggests that this awareness of finitude of our limited existence often drives a persistent striving for more possessions, experiences beauty in an attempt to kind of transcend our perceived limitations.
So we're constantly trying to fill a void, attempting to expand ourselves by acquiring things outside of ourselves.
Exactly. This pursuit, the article argues, is driven by the ego, which seeks external validation to compensate for a perceived sense of inadequacy. But this pursuit is ultimately futile, leading to suffering, because it fails to address the root cause, the ego's identification with a limited self.
And the article uses the Greek myth of King Midas to illustrate this point.
Oh, right. Midas wished for everything he touched to turn to gold.
Yeah, at first this seemed like a blessing.
Right, but it quickly became a curse as he couldn't eat, drink, or even touch his loved ones without turning them into lifeless gold.
So it's a cautionary tale about the pitfalls of mistaking external possessions for true fulfillment.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves caught in a constant struggle between our longing for permanence, for expansion, and the undeniable reality of our limitations, our mortality.
Right. The article delves into this inherent duality,
Right.
highlighting the ever-present awareness of death that influences our lives. It uses the analogy of the Damocles sword, a sword suspended by a single hair over the head of Damocles.
I see.
Symbolizing a precariousness of power and the constant threat of death.
So even in moments of apparent happiness and security,
Yes.
the awareness of our mortality lingers in the background.
The article also presents the story of Kalidasa and his wife. Kalidasa, initially a simple shepherd, was instructed by his wife to focus on a sword hanging above an idol, a reminder of the ever-present possibility of death. This intense focus, though, born from fear, ultimately led to Kalidasa's transformation into a renowned poet.
That's interesting. This story suggests that while the fear of death can be paralyzing, it can also be a catalyst for transformation.
Yeah, acknowledging our mortality allows us to live more consciously, appreciating the preciousness of life and focusing on what truly matters.
And this makes me think about the concept of Atman as the unchanging self watching the events of life unfold.
Okay.
Imagine Atman like the screen on which the movie of your life plays.
Right.
The movie's frames change, but the screen remains constant.
Yeah.
Could this explain that feeling of an I that persists through all our experiences? However, the article doesn't advocate for an obsessive preoccupation with death.
Right. It suggests that recognizing the reality of our mortality can help us live more authentically. Accepting our limitations allows us to let go of the futile pursuit of external validation and instead focus on cultivating inner peace and fulfillment.
So rather than trying to escape our finitude,
Exactly.
we can embrace it as an integral part of the human experience.
Yeah.
This brings us back to the two contrasting perspectives we discussed earlier. How can we reconcile the Buddhist emphasis on impermanence with Shankara's concept of an eternal self? If everything is constantly changing, how can there be an unchanging self?
That's a profound question, and the article doesn't offer a definitive answer. It invites us to contemplate this duality, to explore how these seemingly opposing ideas can coexist within our understanding of ourselves and the world. The article leaves us with more questions than answers, prompting us to contemplate these complex concepts and find our own meaning.
So it's less about arriving at a definitive answer and more about embracing the mystery and the paradoxical nature of existence.
Perhaps by acknowledging both the impermanence of all things and the possibility of an enduring consciousness, we can find a deeper meaning in our lives, a way to live more fully in the present moment, even in the face of uncertainty and inevitable loss.
So much to think about, huh? It seems like this deep dive raised more questions than answers.
Yeah, but maybe that's the point. The article doesn't really try to hand us a neat solution or a single perfect worldview, you know? Instead, it encourages us to grapple with these complex philosophical ideas and find our own individual meaning.
I see. So where does that leave us then? What can we really take away from this whole exploration of impermanence and the fear of death and the nature of existence itself?
Well, perhaps the most important takeaway is that invitation to self-reflection. You know, the article really prompts us to examine our own lives and our desires and our fears in light of these profound concepts.
So it's a call to move beyond the superficial, the fleeting, and to seek a deeper understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe.
Exactly. By recognizing the impermanence of all things, we can learn to truly appreciate the present moment, to find joy in the simple things, and to cultivate a sense of gratitude for the gift of life itself.
And perhaps by acknowledging the possibility of an enduring consciousness, we can find solace in the face of our inevitable physical death.
Right. The article doesn't offer, definitive answers, but it does provide a framework for thinking about some of life's most fundamental questions. It invites us to embrace the mystery of existence, to find our own path, and to live more authentically, even in the face of impermanence.
This has been a truly thought-provoking deep dive, I think. We've explored complex philosophical concepts, examined ancient wisdom, and confronted our own mortality. But rather than leaving us feeling overwhelmed or despairing, this exploration has, I think, opened up new possibilities, new ways of seeing ourselves and the world around us.
I agree. It's a good reminder that the journey of self-discovery is ongoing and that there's always more to learn, more to explore, and more to experience.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope this exploration has sparked your own curiosity and inspired you to continue pondering these profound questions. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.